Hey guys, and welcome back to Darkhorse Paranormal. In this episode, we dive into Mysloch and Nesmo. Throughout the summer and autumn of 1754, a private green-lacquered horse-drawn carriage prowled Georgian London after nightfall, and its aristocratic-looking passenger was said to enhance young and old women into the coach so he could have his wicked way with them. And this did not involve any form of sex, but instead the drawing of large quantities of blood from the females through their necks. The gentleman would begin by gently kissing the necks of the females in a seductive fashion, before digging his pointed incisors deep into the tissues of the neck, occasionally piercing the canthroid artery with fatal consequences. The victims of the vampiric attacks, be they alive or dead, were either dumped in a dark alleyway or thrown into the Thames. The heremobilotic, which is a person having a fetish for drinking blood, who was carrying out all these outrageous attacks, was said to be an obscure count named Mysloch, who had come from London, from Graz, which is a province of now Austria. The reports of this vampire died down by early December of that year, and most rational-minded people in the capital and elsewhere dismissed the stories of blood-drained women as far-fetched tales. But some claimed Count Mysloch had merely left London to satisfy his blood craving in the country villages of England. A man who was said to be an expert in Satanism believed Mysloch was associated with Sir Francis Dashwood's so-called Hellfire Club, which meant in the chalk mine caves of West Wycombe, members of his club allegedly indulged in obscene sex orgies, devil worship, Hendersism, alcohol and drug abuse, and other indecent activities. Almost 100 years after the rumours of the Georgian vampire Mysloch had faded into folklore, the name Mysloch resurfaced in an annotated vampire report. In Sussex, in the summer of 1851, John Morton, a farmer, labourer at Pulborough, claimed his sweetheart, a 15-year-old girl named Jane Hubbard, and fought off a strange-looking attacker who had entered their bedroom that night. Jane had awakened at 1 a.m. to find a bald, yellow-faced man with red eyes and pointed teeth leaning over her. As the intruder lunged forward in an attempt to bite her neck, the teenager slapped his face, grabbed the silver candlestick, and began to club his head as she screamed for help. The girl's uncle, a muscular blacksmith named Joseph, soon entered the room and tried to tackle the weird-looking assailant, but he jumped out of the open window and landed in the street below before running off at an unearthly high speed. The attacker was later identified as he passed the church by Mrs. Townsend, the local greengrocer. She had been also attacked by the man in her bedroom, and he had also attempted to rape her. The man fled when the two men tried to apprehend him, and the mystery deepened when a traveller from Crownborough arrived at a lodging house in Pulborough in August of that year. The traveller was a man of incredible tales named John Wakefield. He claimed to be a neuromancer, an exorcist, a demonologist, a healer, and a hunter of vampires. Furthermore, he claimed that Count Mysloch, who had once been at large in London and the home countries a century before, was was again on the prowl in Sussex. When Wakefield heard about the bald head or skinned gruel described by Jane Hubbard and Mrs. Townsend, he set out to hunt down the creature. Convinced it was Count Mysloch, using an obscure form of divination with a device in a box that resembled a magnetic compass, John Wakefield roamed an ancient deer park on the slopes of South Downs until he came upon an isolated cottage. This proved to be the home of the vampire, but the bloodsucker was too quick for Wakefield and fled into the night. But not before the vampire haunter caught a glimpse of the bloodthirsty Austrian's parasite's face. This face was in fact the very same face Wakefield had seen a year before, looking through the bedroom window of his young sisters at the home in Calbra. On that occasion, Wakefield had fired a pistol at Mysloch, but he escaped into the night unscattered. Wakefield pursued Mysloch across the country as far as Kent, but the vampire managed to evade capture near Gravesend. Wakefield later claimed that Count Mysloch had returned to his old prowling ground, London, and had moved to the prestigious old house with another vampire, formerly a Polish man named Nesmo, who had committed suicide in 1823. In the early 19th century, all kinds of taboos surrounded the burial of suicides, and elaborate superstitions. Precautions were taken to prevent the dead person from rising as a vampire. Nesmo was buried face down at a crossroads near Hampstead Heath, with a stake driven through his midsection. This barbaric practice was carried out at midnight on unhallowed ground, which is now beset by St. Range Road. Weeks after the burial, a ghastly-looking figure was seen walking like a somnambulist from the crossroads one night, and Nesmo's grave was later found to be empty. Body snatchers who had perhaps taken the corpse to sell to a medical school were suspected, but others believed Nesmo had risen from his grave as a vampire. Strangely enough, in the 1920s, there was a gruesome but intriguing report about a group of children who would often pay a visit to the vampire's house. A nickname of an old crumbling old mansion on the Belsize estate, within a stone throw of Spaniards Road. A 12-year-old child named Susan Brown was challenged by her peers to put a hand through the front door letterbox of the mansion, and so she playfully lifted the brass flap, inserted a hand into the slot, and began to scream. Moments later, the girl collapsed with blood spurting from her hand. 2 of her fingers were missing. They'd been bitten off at the knuckles. The police made a forced entry into the house and discovered that no one had lived in it for several years, and they found no evidence of any recent